3rd, 2017. At this time, we would like to invite Reverend Arnold Jackson from Mount Moriah Church up to give us the invocation, after which we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by myself. If you'd all rise, please.
Let's take a moment, if we can, to just bow our heads in silence for the mass shooting in Las Vegas earlier this week. O God, our help in ages past and our hope for years to come, we come to you this evening recognizing and praying for all the families that were involved in the mass shootings, whether they were deaths or whether they were accidents or just various things that have occurred there. We also, God, are mindful of Puerto Rico and the hurricane coming through there. And we pray that you would stand beside each individual that's going through. Even coming off of that with Florida and with Houston, those natural events. So whether it's man-made or whether it's natural, God, we pray your undergirding, we pray your strength, we pray your guidance, and we pray your direction. And we're mindful and thankful for the mayor and the city council that are here, as well as the city manager and his staff, the police chief and the fire chief, and we thank you for the cooperation that goes on in this city with the citizens. Touch this meeting, be in the midst of it, and guide it and lead it, and we will forever give you the praise, the glory, and the honor. All these things we ask in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. This time we'd like to move to roll call, please.
Councilmember Chapados?
Here.
Councilwoman Gussie?
Here.
Councilmember Manfredi?
Here.
Councilmember Smith? Here. Councilmember Wade?
Here.
Vice Mayor Brown? Mayor Price?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. That'll take us to number 3 on the agenda, which is the Proclamation Acknowledgements Awards. We have 2 proclamations this time. I'll come down there. So do we have a member of the, there we go. Not very loud. How's it? Good to see you. So today we have a proclamation regarding some of the things that our planning staff does on a regular basis. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, and whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live, and whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community, and whereas the full benefit of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand support and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation, and whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories. Whereas the American Planning Association and its professional institute, the American Institute Certified Planners, endorse National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight the contributions, sound planning, and plan implementations to make the quality of our settlements and environment. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and the dedication of the members of the planning commissions and other citizen planners who have contributed their time and their expertise to the improvement of the city of Maricopa. And whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by professional, community, and regional planners of the city of Maricopa, and to extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals, in an effort to provide long-term guidelines for growth, planning Maricopa, shaping our communities, and the 2016 City of Maricopa General Plan Update was adopted by the City Council in May of 2016 and was voted on by the citizens of Maricopa in the general election of November 2016. Now therefore, I, Christian Price, Mayor of the City of Maricopa, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2017 as Community Planning Month in the City of Maricopa and in conjunction with the celebration of National Community Planning Month. So if you can spit all that out 10 times fast, you're much better than I, but we really want to give a big round of applause and many thanks to our planning staff and all the citizens who volunteer their time on planning and zoning and so many other type of these committees and commissions that we couldn't do the job without them. So thank you very much. So this next one, we have some guests in the audience. It has to do with some of the issues of domestic violence. And I think, as you may or may not know, October is Domestic Violence Month. That's why a lot of us are wearing purple tonight, albeit some of us are wearing orange, which apparently I was told I didn't get the memo, but I touted back that it was a Domestic Violence Month, so I was supposed to wear purple. So I was okay regardless, I think. But I just want to invite all of you to come up here. We'd like to have a proclamation for you all for all the work that you do. So whereas all Arizonans are affected by domestic violence directly or indirectly, with more than 1 million victims seeking medical assistance for injuries caused by battering, and whereas 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men aged 18 and older in the United States have become the victims of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime, and whereas an estimated 30 to 60% of the families where either domestic violence or child maltreatment is identified, it is likely that both forms of abuse exist. Studies show that for victims who experience severe forms of domestic violence, their children are also in danger of suffering severe physical harm. And whereas the problems of domestic violence is not confined to any group or groups of people, but across all economic, racial, affectual preferences, and societal barriers. And whereas violence against women and children continues to become more prevalent as a social problem due to the imbalance of power due to gender and age, and whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to systemic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and/or abuse. And so whereas battered women have been in the forefront in efforts to bring peace and equality to the home, and whereas this community recognizes the vital importance of increasing the general public's awareness and support of agencies providing services to domestic violence victims and perpetrators, whereas we hold forth a vision of a community free from domestic violence. Now, therefore, I, Christian Price, Mayor of the City of Maricopa, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2017 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Maricopa. We'd like to give these folks a big round of applause for all that they do. You want to talk about Bloom? Yes, I do.
In honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I wanted to introduce the Maricopa Police Department Bloom Crew, recognizing Bloom 365, which is a youth-led peer-to-peer prevention intervention program which will be rolling out into the community, starting with our first community event on October 21st at Copper Sky. It is for 10 to 13-year-olds to learn about healthy relationships. It's a glow stick party. And we'll talk about healthy relationships, dance, have music, and giveaways. I'd like to introduce the Bloom Crew that's going to be presenting. Our youth facilitators, if they could step forward: Alex Hurley, Taylor Cochran, Elisa Jimenez, Dreama King, and then Priscilla Majaro, who's not here tonight. We have adult mentors: Officer Slider, Renee Miller from Impact, Tanya Matthews from Impact, James Tippett from Maricopa Unified School District, Heather Lozano with the City of Maricopa, Henry Pollock with the City of Maricopa, Julie Manier with Assurance Health and Wellness, and then myself with the Maricopa Police Department.
What time on the 21st?
The event will be from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., and you can register online for the event.
Thank you very much for being here this evening and for that participation. Some really important things going on, and we appreciate that group for all that they're doing. This takes us to the item 4, which is the report from the mayor. I'll be very brief. There's been a lot going on in the last few weeks, but I'll just give you a couple of things here. And before I actually do that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Chapados, who has a few previous announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. These are available out in the lobby, but we have our cards now for the 3rd Annual Senior Info Expo, January 20th, which is a Saturday here at City Hall from 10 to 2. Also want to remind everybody, and these flyers are also available, on October 14th, Maricopa Police Department is partnering with the Pinal County Attorney's Office to do a medication surrender and also a shred-a-thon. It's free. It's here at City Hall, October 14th, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Thank you, Mayor.
Perfect. A couple other things here, just two real fast ones. Vanessa, I hope this is not too much of a surprise, but it doesn't have to be agendized. I just wanted to, I've had the opportunity to talk to all of you regarding the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee, Council Subcommittee, and in that process I've decided to appoint Vice Mayor Brown, Councilmember Manfredi, and myself to the subcommittee here. Again, we can change this as the years go on, and so as those of you who have different time schedules or different interests or things like that, we certainly can make that come up. But that's going to be the subcommittee on the legislative affairs that will pretty much swing into action as we get ready to move forward towards the next legislative session. Also, one last announcement here. While it has been a very busy few weeks and it's only going to get busier as we move into October, I just wanted to invite all of you. Tomorrow is the State of the City address that will be here. The program starts at 6. If you've never been to a State of the City address, we really encourage you to come. We try and make it fun. We try not to make it just a boring speech, but actually something that's entertaining. So people are probably going to be starting to roll in about 5:45, 6 o'clock. Be mulling around out here. We'll have some stuff, some theme to our State of the City that will be inside the chambers and outside the chambers, and it will be outside. We're going to kind of congregate around and really meet people and network. It should be a lot of fun. And then about 6:30, 6:35 or so, we'll start the speech and then be out of here hopefully in an hour. So with that, we hope that you'll show up and have a good time, learn something about your city along the way, and meet some new friends. So with that, we hope to see you here at 6 p.m. tomorrow here at City Hall. So with that, that concludes my report from the mayor, and we'll move right now to the report from the city manager.
Mayor, only one item tonight. I would invite Chief Leffler up to talk a little bit about Fire Prevention Week.
Honorable Mayor, Council, we've got the fire department is excited to announce Fire Prevention Week display and informational booth being presented this Saturday, October 7th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Fry's at 20797 North John Wayne Parkway. We'll have a fire truck display along with some fire prevention and home safety information brochures and giveaways for the kids. Come out and meet the Maricopa firefighters. This event will kick off National Fire Prevention Week, which runs from October 8th through the 14th. And this year's fire safety message is, every second counts, plan 2 ways out. We've had a couple of home fires here just recently, so this really rings true. It reminds the residents of the importance of developing and practicing a home evacuation program and 2 designated ways out. So please come on out on Saturday and join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. That will take us to item 6, which is the call of the public. I have 2 speaker cards at this time. I'd like to go to those first, after which we'll invite anyone else who'd like to come up and speak to please address us. The first one I have is from Joanna Vanderpool. Joanna, come on up.
Get me set up. Everyone's here? Okay. Good evening to the Honorable Mayor Price, City Council, and City Manager. I can project. My name is Joanna J.C. Vanderpool. Standing with me are members of one of your newest committees, the Cultural Affairs Committee. We are here to thank you for your support and to announce the closing activity for Hispanic Heritage Month. The City of Maricopa Cultural Affairs Committee, in partnership with the Maricopa Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the Hispanic Women's Corporation, celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month with citywide events during September and will conclude this Friday, October 6th. All are invited and encouraged to attend. The final event this Friday, October 6th, at Copper Sky Multi-Generational Center from 6 to 8. You will see works created by local artists and enjoy musical performed by our local Hispanic artists. Light stacks will be provided. Please clear your calendar to join us in this final celebration for Hispanic Heritage Month. I have flyers, and there are flyers outside. How am I on time, Vanessa? Do I have a couple of minutes? To list some of the events that we have conducted, that would be informational booth at Ak-Chin, Ultrastar, City of Maricopa, proclamation, display and exhibits from the local residents of Hispanic descent at Copper Sky, incorporation of Hispanic Heritage Month into existing library reading programs, availability of Hispanic-oriented games at game night on Friday. Several of our city council members were there and the table was full. Showing of the movie Under the Same Moon at Central Arizona College. That was done twice this month. So our grand finale, once again, is a meet and greet event at Maricopa Copper Sky, multi-generational room from 6 to 8. Come and join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the committee. Appreciate all your work. Thank you, Joanna. Shelley Gillespie.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and neighbors. I wanted to give you an update on the Copa Shorts Film Fest. I wanted to start out with a thank you. We've had many great things happening, and we're grateful because it kind of seems to be a whole domino effect. Our wonderful program that was done by our neighbor May Donahue had come to the attention of MEDA, Maricopa Economic Development Alliance. And Ioana Morphesis, seeing this, said, hey, how would you like our PR agency, Duality PR, to send some press releases? Well, what do you know? Last Thursday, and I handed out a little slip to everybody on the council, last Thursday we were able to be shown from the workshop we did. Unfortunately, it wasn't here, it was in Santan, but they were very excited, and we had a Cronkite reporter come and do a piece on us. It was a minute and a half plus, with a little lead-in even, so we got lots of PR from it. And so I just found out the link today to tell people about. So all of those things all came from this wonderful cover. that May Donahue, and I know all of you on the council saw this. She's working on a new one, which we'll have ready soon to start promoting our second year. We also have wonderful things happening, like the end of next week. Well, for some people it'll be wonderful, some people will be frightening because they're going to be submitting their films and their screenplays. But Friday the 13th is the last day that we're taking those wonderful creative efforts. We're looking for businesses who'd like to be featured at the festival or sponsor our program. And we're now partnering with the following organizations. We're now partnering with in Maricopa, and we're working with them to promote our film festival on a regular basis. You'll see our banners on their website and the ads in their magazines. Orbitel has renewed its sponsorship. We'll be including Auction student and Maricopa Wells Middle School films in our programs, as well as military veteran films. We've got quite a few flooding in through the group called Veterans for Film and TV. We have Native American films that we really need more of, but we have some of their children's films that will be in. And we have some very excellent high school and college films this year. The festival itself is February 16th through 18th, and we're anticipating many more fun films at this time. We already have 15 countries represented, films in every genre we accept, a range from heartbreaking and uplifting military veteran films to inspire you, including documentaries, a hilarious comedy with angels playing Cupid as a dating service, and some thought-provoking, funny, sad, and amazing films and screenplays. So if you're interested, there's still room for help. We surely need volunteers, and we also need donations because there are a lot of things that in-kind just doesn't do. But see our website at copashortsfilmfest.org, and don't forget, get your film in because we want everybody to be heard and see all their creativity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. That concludes our speaker cards, but if anyone else would like to approach the podium, you're welcome to do so.
Mayor Price, Council, Tori Anderson, I just want to thank you. Two things. One is thank you for your continued support in stopping the violence in our city and for your support for all of our domestic violence efforts. Against Abuse is very honored to be able to be a part of this city and a part of our community, and I just want to thank you for your support and your continued encouragement that we continue this path to make our city safe. So that was one thing, and thank you every October. I know we also share this with Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we're more than happy to share it because it is about the women for the month of October. So, you know, got to go with that. We did I put a flyer on each one of your tables of the stats just for 16 and 17 of what Against Abuse has done. And they're pretty impressive. It's unfortunate that that need is there, but I am grateful that we are able to provide those services for those people that need it so that our families can be safe and secure. So I wanted to bring that out and let you know what that was. The next thing I want to do is kind of a shout out kudos to our police department. So Chief Stahl, Sergeant Kuzer, a couple of other officers. I happen to be the mother of 3 sons. 2 of them are teenagers and new drivers. And I just want to thank the Maricopa Police Department for taking time to use a traffic stop as a teaching tool. So I appreciate the police department for keeping my children safe because we need to catch it when they're teenagers and when they're new drivers because that will keep an accident from happening down the road. So as a parent, I just wanted to say thank you, do a shout out to the Maricopa PD. I think they do a great job, and I really appreciate the way they keep our youth safe. So that's all I wanted to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Tori. Appreciate it. Anyone else at this time like to address the council? Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close the call to the public and move on to item 7, the minutes. Council at this time have been informed that the minutes attached to this particular agenda are incorrect, and so we've been asked to table them at this time and that we would bring them back at the next meeting with corrected minutes, also minutes from this meeting, and then we'd approve those at that time. So with that, can I have a motion to table, please? 7.1 and 7.2. Motion? Second. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on these? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. So we'll table those. Thank you. At this time, we have no public hearings. This takes us to consent agenda. Council, this is for items 9.1 through 9.3, as 9.4 has been moved to the regular agenda. Can I have a motion to approve consent, please? I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion on any items here? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. And that'll take us to the regular City Council agenda, items 10.1 through 10.2, but we also have 9.4 on there. So, Councilwoman Gussie, I'll turn it over to you as you asked for this item to be pulled, if you have questions or concerns, and we'll start off from there.
I had some questions regarding this agenda item. It's for the lease of commercial space for MCE. Now, the lease is $2,232 a month, totaling to $26,793 a year. Now, my question was, I actually pulled the old contract that we had, and the NACIT contract expired September 30th. So wouldn't it be logical to have the NACIT contract before we make a decision on the location that we're going to lease for this contract?
Councilwoman Gussie, we had discussed during executive sessions that we would be moving forward with the lease for the space. So they are two separate items.
And I understand they're two separate items, and I was present during the session discussions. I'm not questioning those discussions. The discussions, no decision is ever made during e-session. So just so the public is aware, we didn't make any decisions to go forward with the NACIT contract, to either go forward or not go forward with it. So those weren't the discussions that were being made. The question at hand right now is this lease. But my question is, let's say a student, if my son is going to go to ASU, I'm not going to get his room, I'm not going to get his classes scheduled, I'm not going to get anything unless he's actually been accepted to the university. So I'm not going to do any of that until I know for sure he's accepted to the university. So why are we leasing a location until we know for sure if we're going to have either an MCE or an entrepreneurship program within the city? That's my question.
I guess I would ask for better direction. Is this something that you would like to be placed on a different agenda?
I'm having a hard time approving this, not knowing whether or not we're going to move forward, because we're going to be on the hook for this. This lease is, according to the information that we received here, the lease is for October 1st through September 30th of 2018.
Correct.
So that's 12 months worth. And so say that we decide, because no decision was made on e-session, let's say we decide the next meeting, because I was told through the city manager, next meeting is we're going to be discussing the NACIT contract and what we're going to do going forward. Say we decide not to, so we're still going to be on the hook for this location for 12 months.
Correct.
So wouldn't it be logical to know what comes first before we get into this?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Gussie, I think that the council made some decisions as a part of the budget process when these funds were allocated for the space. Now, the mayor and council have the option of reversing course at any point, and if you make a decision tonight not to lease the space, then it's a de facto sin that you don't also want a program. It would be more difficult to continue with an incubator program without space to have it. But in part, some of that was decided when the mayor and council made the decision to approve the budget that included funding for leasing of the space.
And I also had another question regarding, so we nowhere in the contract with NACIT are they, the $200,000 contract, is any of those funds going towards rent, correct?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Gussie, I'm not sure how much we can get into the NACIT. Yes, y'all look for legal guidance
I'm
on
just
that.
asking about the previous.
Okay. My understanding is that none of the $200,000 that is provided to NACIT goes towards the lease, but I'll defer to Denise.
So under the current contract, they are awarded $200,000, and from that, they pay the lease for the space previously. Moving forward, it was discussed that we would move forward and lease the space from the city's perspective, and we would reduce the amount moving forward with NACET, and we would choose to do, council had the option to choose to move forward with a month-to-month agreement. So the contract that will be brought before you will be a reduced amount for them.
For them.
Correct.
So the rent that's being currently collected by one of the residents that is using the space there, that currently is going towards the administration of MCE. So they're the
Correct.
ones who are getting the funds.
Correct.
So in the future, going forward, any funds that are collected for the space, will those be coming back to us?
Ultimately, the co-working space was identified, was a method to reduce the cost, the overhead for MCE. So if that's something that, since we will be the master leaser for the space, then yes.
Yes, it'll be coming back to us.
Correct.
All right. And one last comment. So this is a $26,793 that we're coming to question today. When we're having issues with, let me change my question. So are you aware if any one of the multi-purpose rooms at Copper Sky produce this kind of rent a year? You know, being leased out, being for events, on a monthly basis, has it ever reached $2,200 or has it ever reached $26,000 for a year? I'm just trying to repurpose the multi-purpose room.
At Copper Sky?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gussie, I really don't have a deep understanding of what the rental rates are for Copper Sky facilities. I do want to clarify that the figure that you're using is the base lease rate, and that does not include the triple net. So you're actually looking at about $3,000 in change. So we're looking at $36,000 a year.
That the city would be.
Correct, yes. So I just want to be clear that that's just the base lease rate without the taxes and included.
For it. Okay, once again, at this point, I'm not in favor of this item going forward because we would be putting us on a hook for something that may or may not exist in the future. That's my last comment. Thank you.
Councilman Manfredi.
Denise, thank you so much for the answers so far. Thank you, Gregory. Question for you then. If we decline this today, we say no to this today, and when does MCE have to be out of the property?
3 days ago.
So they'd have to move out as of now.
Yes.
They probably have a couple days to get out. Is there an ability for us to go into a month-to-month lease here, or has that been discussed with the landlord, where we just continue until we figure out what we're going to do with an incubator?
Councilmember Manfredi, that's a great question, and in fact, Councilwoman Gussie asked that as well. And we're in a great position where we're able to sign a one-year lease, and that was something that was negotiated by NACET. So it's not really customary for some of the major landowners to do a month-to-month lease. Usually they'll extend it month-to-month, while we're negotiating new terms, but it's not common to even do a one-year lease. It's more common to do 2 to 5 years as a term.
Thank you.
Sure.
So Denise, let me ask you a question. If, as the master leaser of this moving forward, that space is ours, right?
Correct.
And we could sublease it to somebody else should something occur on this council in 6 months from now, and we could sublease it out and make a few bucks back if that's what we wanted to do, right? So ultimately, I mean, the question here is while I understand my counterparts' questions, certainly it doesn't seem that in a logical order of things that's the way we would go, but that's not always the way contracts fall. And so here we are. We've given direction to seek some additional tweaks to what we're doing there, because that's something that I think the public has asked for, as well as the council, right? Is we're always looking to make things better. And I think that that's kind of what we have given instruction to do, is to move forward with finding out more information. But that is not something that's done overnight. It takes time. So never, I don't think there was ever this council's intention to shut down the program and ruin the people that were currently under the tutelage of MCE for the purpose of where the contract falls. I think the goal here is to be able to maintain continuity of services so that we can ultimately decide what is the best use of the taxpayers' dollars. And so I think that that's where the discussion was up to this point. And so it is unfortunate that, we don't get to have our cake and eat it too, the way that we would like things to line up, but sometimes that's the way it works. But it still doesn't detract from what we ultimately set forward, which was we wanted to know how to better tweak it so we could make a final decision. That didn't mean terminate it now. So am I correct in that thought process?
Mayor Price, that is correct. So we looked at the lease in multiple different directions. Should NACET sign it and then we would sublease it? Should, for whatever reason, decide to not move forward with them? And it was decided that we then have the ability, by being the master leaseholder, to sublease it should we decide to change directions.
So we've basically covered, we've covered our rear end, so to speak, by being able to have the flexibility that
Correct.
we need based on the decisions that council's
Correct.
looking for. So while we're rigid in some respects, we're flexible in others.
Correct.
Got it. Yes, Councilmember Whedon.
Thank you, Denise. What, if any, penalties would we have to pay if we don't move forward on this lease as is presented to us tonight?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Wade, I
said,
didn't
what
hear your
if
question.
any penalties would be, we would have to be concerned with if we didn't move forward with the lease this evening?
I'd have to look at the lease closely or talk to the broker to understand what we would be held responsible for. So I could, look into that and provide that information.
So notice has been given to the owner, or has not been given to the owner of our intent just yet?
Well, no, I think from what I understand from Councilwoman Gussie's question to the city manager and the response therein was that the notice has been given, we were granted an extension based on when city council fell, and that we would be basically held for a pro rata amount of what we have used and been there this month. So here we are, the third day of the month. So
Correct.
we'd be on the hook for those, and then if they were out tomorrow,
Correct.
we'd be on for 4 days this month. So
But no penalties for voiding the lease?
Again, that would be contract and legal, but it didn't sound like that from the initial response from the city manager. Is that correct, Dennis?
Honorable Mayor, as I understand, I'll defer a little bit to Denise, that we are currently not the signature on the existing lease with the broker, so it is NACET, as I understand it. But from a perspective of being a good partner with NACET, I would certainly be recommending that if you decided as a council to terminate that agreement with the broker, that we should compensate NACET for the period of time that we remain in the facility.
Any further discussion? Yes, Councilman Manfredi.
Denise, would it be safe to say that if we vote no on this today, we end MCE in the city of Maricopa today?
The Business Incubator Program is part of a three-legged stool in economic development. That's business attraction, business retention, and business growth. So the whole idea, the premise behind having this space is, should you decide to not move forward with NACET, and then we can identify a different, better, unique resource for the city, then we still have that space, we still have that ecosystem, we still have that location, we still have that co-working space, we still have a center. So it really is a hindrance to all the work that's been occurring at the center for all these years. Again, if we need and feel that we want to tweak it and want to look at different metrics, then that's one thing. If we are looking at the NACET contract These are two separate things based upon discussions that we've had in the past, but ultimately, the decision is up to you.
Right, so again, the question, I guess, is if we say no to the contract today for the leased space, they have to be out within a couple days, I would assume, by maybe the end of the week or something. MCE has no falling landing place, correct?
That is correct.
So the program as it exists today won't exist tomorrow.
The space wouldn't exist, correct?
Okay.
Councilwoman Gussie.
I want to make it very clear, I have nothing against MCE. As a matter of fact, I think I'm the only council member that actually established a business, or I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I'm the only one that's established a business through MCE. I not only established a personal business, but also a nonprofit. So I have nothing against MCE. But looking at this actual space, what's special about MCE is that it's an entrepreneurship program, and you said it yourself right now, this is essential to the city at this time. My issue is the actual location, because what is it? It's only the four walls and maybe, partitions in the back and maybe that private office in the front. But that's all it is. Realistically, I have a problem with the lease going forward. That's the reason why I took it out of consent. I have no issues with MCE. I do believe there is value with MCE. Like I said, I not only started a nonprofit there, but I also started my own business there. So I put a lot of value on MCE. But at the same time, I have issues with this location, especially because we're coming to a tight budget year. We have issues with budget issues with Copper Sky, and we have two multi-purpose rooms there that, unless they're being used, we could repurpose them for this purpose. My issue is with the actual lease. Why rent from a location when we could be renting from ourselves?
Well, I would answer that as a member of the BFO who sat in the last 25 hours worth of budgetary meetings on protect exactly this issue, regarding the look at Copper Sky and how do we make that more efficient. I mean, the problem falls is that one of the things that I think we discovered when we were talking about the seniors with that is the difficulty in what it means to take that space away entirely for an entire day or even a half day. You take it away from other renting facilities, et cetera. So, with the amount of traffic that's going through MCE, the drop-ins, the walk-ins, those types of things, you're looking for that visibility. When you compare, the relative cost of space in Maricopa, I mean, that's its value. Its value is being there and visible and everything else. Now, it's not to say that Copper Sky is invisible. I think we all know that. But again, it's not necessarily the location for it. So, Councilman Manfredi is right. I mean, you effectually can pseudo-kill it, but you don't, because the council's already given the instruction that this is to move forward in some variance. And I think what we do is we put ourselves in a much more difficult position to attract these particular companies that we're looking for as we tweak this to make it everything we truly want if we don't have a space for it to go into. And so that discussion of, using, while it's a great idea in concept, it's one in which we have, mulled over so many times and how to get as many things into those activity rooms as we possibly can. Those are short-sighted in space. I mean, they're used all the time. I think the BFO has gone over that in length at looking at all the different avenues to that. So there really are some interesting scenarios there. It's also my understanding that the rent that we do get out of that one room that the school is in is somewhere upwards of $6,000 a month. So if we were to move this at $3,000 a month, then we would be losing $3,000 in rent. Potentially. So those are things we have to consider as you make this financial decision. I don't think the idea is to cut us off at the knees, but to rather not throw the baby out with the bathwater and to tweak these so that we can ultimately get that which we feel is worth our investment. So just as an FYI.
Mayor Price, Councilman Gussie, just to be clear, the total cost of the contract has always been set at $200,000. So even though that the city would be utilizing and leasing out the space, our total amount will not go up. So this is not in addition to the $200,000. These are funds out of the $200,000. So we are not spending more money on this space or on MCE, the center.
Other questions, concerns, thoughts, issues? We answered everybody's questions? Councilwoman Gussie, have you felt your questions have been answered at this time? Okay. Anyone else at this time? Yes, Councilmember Smith.
I'm going to make a motion if that's all right.
That'd be fine.
Okay, so given the fact that it's very strong in our economic development strategic planning, that an entrepreneur training environment be established within the city of Maricopa, I know the majority of us have stated that we feel strongly that that needs to continue. The location is very visible, and so it's easy for potential businesses to find them. I don't see that a 12-month lease, it puts us at a big risk considering those two elements, and it provides enough space for what's going on now, and hopefully as it grows, we need to actually look for a bigger space. So given that, I'd like to make the motion that we approve item 9.4.
So we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. With that, I'll move to a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Gussie?
No.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapados?
Yes.
Councilmember Wade?
Yes.
Councilmember Manfredi? Yes. Mayor Price?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That'll take us to item 10.1. The mayor and city council shall discuss and possibly take action on proceeding with the request by Brian Foose on behalf of 45030 LLC for abandonment of portions of Wilson Avenue or Papago Street and McDavid Road. This is for discussion and action. Bill.
Mayor Price, members of council, I'm Bill Fay, the Public Works Director. This is actually part of a larger cleanup action on real estate. We have a number of parcels throughout the city. It's very common to have what are called clouded titles, where things on the ground and things on paper, ownership, title report type things don't line up, and in some cases have nothing to do with each other. The area we're going to be talking about is north of the high school and north of McDavid and below the Union Pacific right-of-way, which, as most of you know, if you've seen the area, it's not surprising there's a lot of cloudedness there. This is a picture of, it's a little bit, well, let me describe it. There is right-of-way that the city owns, both the property and the right-of-way easement. There are roads. Sometimes those things don't line up with each other very well. In this case, they don't line up at all. In fact, they have nothing to do with each other. The right-of-way is the area inside that fenced lot, the lot where the cars are, the kind of triangular piece. The western and northern edge is actually the right-of-way. It's inside someone's yard that they have fenced in and are using as a maintenance and storage yard. There is a road. It is just to the west, and it runs all the way up to a building and to the Union Pacific right-of-way. And there is actually a Pinal County private access easement, which starts to make it seem like a private driveway. So where the right-of-way is and where the road are essentially mutually exclusive in this case. The proposal is going to be that we abandon the right-of-way, which is the property that the individual already has inside of Mr. Foss already has fenced inside of his yard, and I think CenturyLink or one of the utilities is using it as a maintenance yard. And then he owns property on the outside that I will get to here in a second. There's the actual recorded plat document. In this color diagram, the left part of the blue is the piece, the CenturyLink that is in the rental lot where the right-of-way is. The reddish piece is the private roadway easement that Pinal County has that he owns the land to. And the green piece is another piece that he has recently bought. There's actually one or two little pieces also. The intent here is that we will abandon the right-of-way, and then we're going to have appraisals done on all of the property and ultimately do a land exchange so that he ends up owning the property that is already inside of his fence line, and the city ends up owning the property that is already being used as a road, and we would do a change of use to turn that into right-of-way. And additionally, a little bit more that, well, if you look at that green piece, some of it's on the high school property, some of it's under McDavid, it's under a road that we already have, and some of it will eventually be probably retention basin. It's not really useful commercially for other purposes. So the intent of the appraisal, in the initial proposal, the city is gaining a lot more square feet than we are abandoning. And the intent of the appraisal is to make sure that the city is not violating any type of gifting clause or giving anything away here. I can tell you from a usefulness perspective, regardless of the value, I guarantee the city's getting something much more useful than it's getting, and the the landowner is getting something that he wants a lot more than what's on the outside, so it's mutually beneficial. There is a potential, a little bit of a long shot, but a collateral potential benefit is that this gives us some land ownership in the area where potentially a PED bridge might come down. The PED bridge is not designed yet. In fact, it's still in the planning stages, but at least it gives us a potential shot at something on this area, and it would be great if it did work out in that sense.
Perfect.
So at this point, the initial step is to the actual right-of-way is an easement. Now, in this case, typical of Arizona, not typical of a lot of states, we own the land underneath also. So there's both the abandonment of the right-of-way, which is the easement, and then eventually the disposition of the actual underlying real estate.
Perfect. Any questions, council? I don't think so. Pretty straightforward. I think it's a win-win. With that, can I have a motion to approve, please? Is there a second? And a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for your work on this. 10.2, resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Maricopa, Arizona, approving and adopting an updated Pinal County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan 2016 and replacing all previously approved mitigation plans. This is for discussion and action.
Mayor Price.
Take it away.
Council.
Eddie.
City Manager. I bring to you the Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. This plan is required by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management, for each county to adopt, bringing in all the towns and cities within the county to develop it, to identify the hazards within the communities and find a solution to mitigate and reduce those hazards so we can recover faster and not have them long-term effects. To bring that more into perspective, I took in some pictures here that kind of bring that, you guys probably were here, probably were not here at that time. This is a 1983 flood that we had here in the city of Maricopa. At that time, we had no plan. We had a disaster here. We had no way to prevent this or reduce this hazard, and this took long-term effects. This is old Helen's catering shop. This is 3 days after the floodwaters hit here, and that was about 3 foot high. This was the local school, the elementary, middle, and high school, which took a long time to get that school opened up again. Of course, you can tell how high the water was there. So, what is this? This hazard mitigation. FEMA defines hazard mitigation as the effort to reduce loss of life and property by lessening the impact of natural disasters. Hazard mitigation actions leads to building stronger, safer, and smarter communities. As you can see there in the diagram, we had the disaster and the response, the recovery, and then the mitigation. What did we do to reduce that? And then we prepare again for the disaster again. The plan, hazard mitigation plan. Mitigation plans form the foundation for a community's long-term strategy to reduce disaster losses and break the cycle of disaster damages. So we're trying to break that cycle and reconstruction and repeated damages. So it identifies the hazards and it describes the risks and the vulnerabilities. Outlines long-term strategies for protecting people and property. And again, in the diagram, the organized the planning. I had assistance from our respective departments, from our planning team, Mr. Kazi Haki, and from our engineering department, Mr. Josh Plum, and from our police department, to see their perspective, Commander James Hughes, and of course the fire department assistant chief, Mr. Bobby Miller, and myself, who were in this planning team to make this happen. So we assess the risks within the communities. We developed a mitigation strategy, so we try to figure out how can we reduce this. We can't prevent it, but we can sure reduce it. And then here we are today adopting the plan. Common mitigation actions. As today we are preventing. We have adopted our building codes, our fire codes, our zoning codes, and our floodplain laws. Acquisition of structures, purchasing buildings located in the floodplains. We just don't do that anymore. Property protection, elevating homes, structural retrofit, and wind resistance. Our biggest comments again is flooding and high winds. Structural projects, we're building new levees, flood walls, retaining walls, and bridges. Improve critical facilities and infrastructure resiliency. For our critical infrastructures, we have now the police departments, the fire departments, the city halls. We all have backup generators, so if we do have a disaster, we can still operate. And the distribution of outreach materials related to hazard mitigation. We have put out flyers out there through our 3 large events, educating the public as to when disasters do come, when floods come, when the haboos hit here. This is Maricopa mitigation strategy. The hazards to be mitigated, of course, like I stated, is the flooding and severe wind. Other hazards considered within the Pinal County, of course, are the dam failure, the drought, fissures, levee failures, subsidines, and wildfires. Why develop and update the plan? This plan provides the foundation for a stronger and more resilient community. It enables the local government to increase education and awareness of hazards, risks, and vulnerabilities. So again, we're educating the public in advance. We build partnerships for risk reduction, other towns and cities within the community. Those other partnerships, if in the plan, identified the other towns and cities within the county: Apache Junction, Casa Grande, Superior, Mammoth, and of course us, the city of Maricopa. Identify long-term, broadly supported strategies for risk reduction. Again, we can recover more. If we can reduce those hazards, we can recover more quickly and not have those long-term effects. Federal regulations require hazard mitigation plans for communities to be eligible for pre-disaster grant programs, including fundraising mitigation projects. So if we adopt this plan, the federal government, we can apply for grants to mitigate some of these hazards that we have here within the city. And lastly, the plan must be updated and approved by FEMA every 5 years. So last time we had this update was back in 2010. So with this, I bring to you for discussion and approval this multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan.
Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate it. Council, do you have any questions on this item? Yes. Councilman Whedon.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much on the presentation. I just have a question about fissures. You know, we've talked slightly about fissures before, and what kind of mitigation process or plan is in place to, abate fissures?
Well, as like I stated, we can't prevent them, but what we can do is reduce the hazard. So don't build within those areas. They can identify them, but just don't build within those areas.
Have we identified fissures and where they are most
identified in the plan. Within the city of Maricopa, that's possibly a probability. It's not a possibility within the city of Maricopa. Other towns and cities within the county are a possibility. And those hazards are pretty much identified using the Calculated Priority Risk Index, the CPRI evaluation. And within that identifies the probability. Is this likely? Is it possible? Unlikely? And it identifies the magnitude and severity. Is it critical, non-critical, low? And then your warning time. How much time do you have for this known hazard coming to you? Is it 12 to 24 hours, less than 6 hours? 2 weeks. So, and now lastly, the duration. How long is this going to last? Less than 6 hours, 3 days, a week? And so that's how they kind of calculate this, these hazards within the county through FEMA.
So based on the report, based on the study, the concerns that we have, and like the mayor says quite often, keeps him up at night, the concerns that we have as far as a flood, a major catastrophe flood, is something that is real life for us, but it is something that you are paying attention to.
Correct, correct. And again, that's the warning time for that. We know way in advance, we know 3 days in advance that we will receive some waters here through the washes through here, and that's where most of our flooding comes from. It's not from the rains, it's from the washes up from Tucson.
Any other questions, council, this time? All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. And a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you all for sticking with us. We appreciate it. That concludes our meeting this evening. So with that, council can I have a motion to move to E-session, please.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll adjourn for 2 weeks.